Today on the show, I'm bringing on a guest who I have an immense amount of respect for. Tons and tons of respect for this guy. I've been watching him coach for a couple of years now. I got to meet him in person just a few years back. He's the head coach at Owyhee High School, which is a local high school here in the Treasure Valley. But what I wanted to talk to him about is not only just his journey as a former athlete and then getting into the coaching side of things. There's two main things. One, big thing I love about him is that he's a culture guy. He develops culture wherever he goes. The kids play for him. And I wanted to pick his brain on how he does that. Like what goes into developing a strong culture in athletics, because you'll notice that in any leadership capacity, whether you're in the corporate sector for work, you're in athletics, whatever it might be, leadership and culture is massive. Like culture can be toxic and you can be a great X's and O's type of a coach, but if the culture is toxic, then it's not sustainable. It can't grow. It can't scale. But when you develop the culture around the X's and O's as well, then that's sustainable. It develops that foundation and it continues to grow and it can scale later on because that culture is not toxic. So that's anywhere you go. And he is phenomenal at that. And the other piece of this is we're going to be talking about athletes against anxiety and depression, which is a foundation that his cousin put together. We'll learn about that near the tail part of the tail end of the interview, I should say, talking about that foundation, what it's all about. Because as you guys know, I've been pretty open about it myself. I've battled with anxiety my entire life, even into my 30s. I'm 36 now. I still battle with anxiety. And we do a lot of things with Helix Mental Performance Camp, talking to athletes that have issues with anxiety on the sports side of things with mental performance. I've had people talking about mental performance and just anxiety here on the show, just being resources and so forth. So today we're going to be talking about that as well. I'm super excited for this one, guys. Like super cool interview from a great leader. And he talks about ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of just coaching and everything, but what he loves and how he's able to influence the youth. You're not going to want to miss this episode of the Gametime Guru. So
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. Shane Larson here, host of the show. Excited to be here with you guys for another one. Man, as I say every single week, super grateful for everybody who's been along with me on this journey, whether it was at the beginning in 2017 or if it's now. But shout out to everyone who's joined. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, you've never joined this, you've never seen it, never heard of it, whatever, welcome aboard. I appreciate y'all. Just for reference, the show has been downloaded on the audio side in 182 countries and in all 50 states. And then on the video side, we're still building, right? I never really optimized YouTube, but I would appreciate for you guys who are tuning in for the first time, if you're not watching this on YouTube, go follow me on YouTube. I'm just trying to build that platform out. I have a very strong audio listener base on Apple and Spotify and all the audio base, but the video side only got about 660 something subscribers at the time of this recording. Help me get to 700. That would be awesome as we continue to make our growth plan in 2025. As you guys heard in the introduction, super exciting opportunity for me. I really have a ton of respect for our guest here. I've been following him from a media perspective and just kind of from afar, but I do know him on a personal level too. We have some mutual friends. Colin Grove actually got me chatting with you a little bit about 2 years ago now, like right before the Owyhee job, but yep. I knew who you were far before that. And so kind of cool to get to chat with him here. And his name is Jason Burton. We call him Coach Burton. And he is joining the podcast. So Jason, thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely, Shane. Thanks for having me, man.
Heck yeah, brother. So let's rewind the clock a little bit. And talk about your involvement in sports. I like to always kind of unbox a few things before we even get to your spot here. Currently, coach at Owyhee High School. It's a local school here in the Treasure Valley of Idaho. If you guys go and Google Owyhee High School, the reality is you're probably going to see some stuff pop up about their basketball program, but their football program is now on the rise. I mean, typically with a new school, programs tend to have a difficult time, like at first as they're trying to, fill the school enrollment and so forth. Now Owyhee football is now starting to improve and get on the map too. So there are other sports outside of just basketball at Owyhee that are pretty dang good. They got some great athletes, but before Owyhee, before Bora, let's go before the coaching side.
Okay.
Jason, tell us a little bit about your background in sports. Where did you grow up? And what sports were you involved in at a young age?
Yeah. Born and raised in Palmdale, California. So SoCal. Shout out 661. Being our age, that was a big thing, right? Reggie Bush. You gotta shout out your area code. Yeah. Love sports. I mean, just in the family. My dad's a huge, athletic coach. And did all the things. And my mom on my mom's side too. She was, a track and cheerleader. So again, it was just like, you were raised and it was just sports all the time, with my parents' friends and, with my cousins. So it was, very fortunate with that. I didn't know any other way. Was just thrown in. I know you're a huge Ohio State fan, following you on social media and all of that stuff. So I'm a huge UCLA fan. My dad didn't go there. I did not go there, but it was just known from a very small age, UCLA. When I was younger and I was mad at my dad, I'd be like, you know what? I like USC and I'm gonna go to USC. And
Yeah.
I really thought that would hurt his feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like, and one of the first times I got in trouble with my mom, we went down to the UCLA pep rally before USC. They have the bonfire and everything like that. I'm like 4, 5, 6, I don't know, but I'm young. I am super young. And we're just hearing chants like USC sucks, right? So then I come home and I say it, and my mom's like, absolutely not. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was a UCLA thing. That's literally like my childhood. Played pretty much all the sports. It was big baseball, basketball. Unfortunately, I hit that growth spurt really early, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a forward, and maybe even like a center. And then also you get to high school and you're like, oh, I'm a point guard or a two guard. Like I stopped growing in middle school, but literally like grew up playing soccer. Actually didn't even play football. Like I played flag football but didn't start tackling until high school. So play soccer, basketball, baseball, ran track, for middle school, all of that. Loved golf, and did all that. And then in high school, was one of like it kind of started like, hey, you got to specialize. And I did all three sports. I did, football, basketball, and baseball. And in my senior year, I did track instead of baseball. And it was awesome. It was awesome. I got to have different friend groups, and taught me so many different things, been around so many different coaches. And it's just always been something like in me. Like I literally like people like, hey, what's your dream job? I'm like, I'm living my dream job. Like that's like the best part, is being a high school teacher and a coach. I absolutely love it. So yeah, that's kind of my childhood.
Dude, that's so cool. There's a couple things I want to unbox there. First off,
Yeah.
like, okay, this is going to be a social media clip because I've got to send it to him.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize, I guess I didn't realize that you're down there. You're a UCLA guy. Colin Grove, bless his
Yeah.
soul,
Oh yeah.
man. So I always talk to Colin Grove and Aaron Didon. Those are two of my friends that like Aaron's a huge UCLA guy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on being a USC football fan and a UCLA basketball fan? How, like, to me, that's Ohio State and Michigan. So like,
Can't.
how does that work?
I say, like, we have a mutual friend. Definitely lose a little respect for Colin. I like I love him, but it's like, oh yeah, you want the best of both worlds. Oh, that's cool. Like, no, man, this is college. You got to pick one, right? Like, you have to pick one and just ride with it. So, I mean, literally, like in the game this year, I'm traveling down to Utah, and it's a back and forth game and all this stuff. And then it's a classic, like your team lose, and my phone is just blowing up doing that. And then literally the next day, Colin's like, "So I'm excited for basketball season." I said, "No, you don't get to get this victory in football and be like, dun, 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 dun," and be like, "Dude, you guys looking great for basketball. Mick Cronin might be getting it going." And I'm like, "No, man, can't have it." I hate the I would say I hate those people, but like it frustrates me, those people, because there's so many people like that in LA. Hey, UCLA or USC football, UCLA basketball, and you're like, no, you got to be both. Sorry about it. You got to roll with the team.
Dude, I love it. Oh man, I'm smiling because I already know my conversations with Colin. In text messages with him, I always kind of like just throw shots at him and stuff. Him and Aaron Didon, like, cause it's the funniest thing together. Growing up down there, I mean, one thing I want to also pick your brain on is the Rose Bowl stadium and just the atmosphere there. I for the first time in my entire life got to go to the Rose Bowl, but it was actually a Rose Bowl game, Ohio State, Oregon, a couple weeks back. And dude, I'll tell you right now, Jason, that was actually like one of the coolest experiences of my life. The stadium is old, but there were so many positive things for me to say about that stadium. I mean, I've been to quite a few stadiums in my day, but the Rose Bowl stadium, the whole atmosphere around it, just like, I mean, it was really like the whole game day atmosphere, the tailgating, everything was great. And to get 90,000 fans into the stadium, it was fast. Like there was no issue getting people into the actual stadium itself. And I thought that was interesting because you go to Boise State with 37,000 fans and it takes you like 40 minutes just to get into the stadium. It's just like little things like that I pay attention to. I thought it was phenomenal. Growing up there, being a UCLA fan, what are your thoughts of like the Rose Bowl stadium and just the Rose Bowl in general?
Oh man, it's the granddaddy of them all. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I mean, that's obviously, being a huge UCLA fan. And it's still like, I mean, the last time I was there was right out of college, right? And it's like when you walk through that tunnel, like to your seats, like in getting, and it just like you can see the light and it keeps on getting brighter and brighter. And then you get there and you look and you're like, this is amazing. And like that's the thing, like when growing up, like I thought it was amazing because UCLA, right? Like I was just like, yes, this is the field I want to play on. This is everything. But then when you get older and they're having Rose Bowl games and the national championships there and everything, and everyone's like, the national championship should be held here every year, but because it is so special. I mean, so many, great memories of, with my dad, being, on the golf course, playing catch, and you're actually like on grass, it's not like other schools where you're just on concrete, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you feel like as a little kid, like, oh, I'm on grass and I'm, running around. I mean, me, my dad, my uncle, and my cousin. I mean, those are some of my like, fondest, memories, and so many great memories, from the Rose Bowl and just iconic games. It's like for me, I feel it's like it's a stadium you've seen so many times that like when you go there, you're like, I've been here. Right, because
Oh yeah.
you've seen it, you've seen it so much, and the beauty of it, and yeah, like it's old, right? It's metal bleachers, like it. And I had some friends. It's like bulldoze it down. I said, no, but that's the Rose Bowl. Like, yeah, if you go to SoFi, I saw friends in SoCal, and you look at these, like, yeah, these stadiums are being like luxury boxes, right? Like, because they can charge. But I'm like, this is still like going to a sporting event. I'm sitting on a metal bench. Like, I don't know. For me, it does feel like home because I've been to it, so many times. But yeah, man, it's awesome, and definitely need to get back with my dad. Many more times because it's a really cool place. I wish UCLA was good so they could fill it during home games, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, maybe one day they'll get back to that. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I heard a lot of complaints about it before I went to the stadium. Oh, it's old. Da, da, da. I actually didn't have a problem with anything there. I didn't have a problem with the seats. I didn't have a problem with any of that. I thought it was marvelous. I've been to worse stadiums than that, and they like I don't know. I thought it was great. It was
Yeah.
phenomenal, and it will forever be ingrained in my memory. It was just a super cool experience for it. Plus, it was
Yeah.
70 degrees, very first day of January, and I'm just like, you know what? There's something to this,
Oh yeah.
Uh, so
Prime time.
when we look back at your career as an athlete, you
Mhm.
mentioned multiple sports. You talked soccer, baseball, basketball, football, track your senior year as well. Didn't start football, like tackle football, till high school. All the things you were mentioning. Jason, one of the things we noticed today is a lot of kids specialize earlier on. They're into club sports, so it's taking them year round pretty much. And you're not seeing a lot of well, I guess you still see a lot of multi-sport athletes, but usually it's dual sport athletes. You'll get a football and a basketball, or a basketball and a baseball, or football and a wrestling, whatever it might be. But there are not a lot of people playing three or more. And I'm curious, from your perspective, how did playing multiple sports help you in each respective sport, I should say?
Yeah, I mean it was I think it's big, and I like I will say, like, we just didn't have the training. Like, growing up, I mean, I graduated in 2004, from high school. So like it was getting there, but it's nothing like it is, today. Like we didn't have an off the field, where, I grew up. But like it's crazy, and just seeing like athletes that I coach right now, and was, very fortunate to, coach Austin Bolt, and there was just, things that's just like, oh, like that's actually, a basketball skill that's being translated on the football field. Like we don't maybe have time to teach that. We don't teach that much, but like high pointing a ball, like that's just basketball, and and
Mhm.
seeing that, and the guys that we have our team. Like, I mean, I'm gonna shout out, Logan Haas fight. I mean, he's a point guard on the basketball court, but he can see things on the football field before they happen, and all of those things. And I think, it translates, when you look like, I always think like, basketball season was, for me as an athlete, like that wasn't my primary sport, but like I got to have a valuable role on the basketball team with all my boys because I was the football player. Like I'm just going to play defense, right? Like I'm not spending hours in the gym shooting. So like I knew I wasn't going to score. So I'm going to give you the ball and I'm going to play unbelievable defense because I can have, like that muscle. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the importance of it, I think, yes, you will learn different skills and they will all translate. And I think like the big thing that I saw, just on the football side, like at Owyhee and at Bora, like being a head coach, like athletes almost kind of relax because it's not their main sport. Right. So you have athletes that's like, hey, my main sport is basketball, or when I was a track coach, like my main sport is girls soccer. And then you get to come to another sport where you're still working on you being an athlete. You are getting better, but like there's not that pressure of like, this is my sport. Like I need to perform. Like I'm trying to go to college, all of these things where like it's cool that you can see players and athletes just go like, hey, I'm here because I want to be with my friends and I want to have a good time. And it's crazy how much you see their confidence grow and how much they have success because they're like, yes, this is important, but I don't have the pressure, right? Because I mean, this is my second sport. Like, yeah, I'm a good athlete, but I'm not expected to go and, play college. So I think on both ends of it, I think it's really, really good for your athlete and just to take a break, like, I mean, it is true. Like, I love football. I've always loved football. Growing up, like I would literally wake up on Saturday mornings singing the UCLA fight song and drawing plays, like literally and watching game day. And like as an elementary kid, and it's like, so I know this game, like I've just always loved it. But like, I also enjoyed like when it was basketball season, like I could take a break from football. You know what I'm saying? Like that was nice. That was a nice break where it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about football right now. I can just go be a basketball player and take a little break. So now I miss football and I wanted to get back into it in the spring.
Sure thing. Yeah, I think the burnout's a real thing these days, and I think that's a great point. The whole just taking a break mentally and just focusing on something else is a good piece to that. That's awesome. I have to rewind and say something because it's funny. You brought up, I laughed about it right at the beginning. You said the way that you would try to hurt your dad's feelings and say you're going to go to USC. Dude, my son, who's 8 years old, that's why I laughed, is because he'll say comments, Jason, like, Will Howard's not even a good quarterback. He sucks. So, like, he'll do the exact same thing to me because he thinks it's going to hurt my feelings if he makes a comment about Ohio State. So, it just makes me laugh. It's when you said that, I was like, dude, I'm living that right now. So, so good. Let's go from that transition. At what point, Jason, did you decide, like, I guess, to transition into the coaching side of things? How did that transition happen in your life, in your journey?
Man, like it's crazy. Like, I mean, I'm very fortunate. And I know this of, so many people are like, hey, what do I want to do? What do I want to do in life? Like, I knew in seventh grade, like that was like in seventh grade, my vision was like, I'm gonna go, I want to play college ball, which I was so fortunate to do. And I want to like get into coaching. Like that's what I want to do. I want to be a teacher and I want to be a coach. And I don't know, like some of it was just like I just felt like that's what I was born to do. Like I really do. But then like being very lucky about being around so many great teachers and coaches, which is the same thing. Like I'm a huge John Wooden fan. Like if we were in my classroom, I have, the pyramid of success, like right there, because he always says like coaches is teaching, right? It's just a different classroom. And it was crazy. One, I think like the reason why was my dad was always my coach and I could like hear my teammates talk about like how great of a leader my dad was and like how much fun we had. So I was like, I want to do that, right? Like I want to, be that person. And then there was just so many different pieces that I was so fortunate to be a part of. Like my high school coaches, my head coach and my OC played at Utah, was a quarterback at Utah. My DC played at Pacific, coach at Pacific, so like I was just very fortunate to be around some high level, coaches. And I just wanted to be like them, and then I was, very fortunate to go to, Cal Lutheran and play ball there. And my position coach was Dave Aranda, who's now the head coach at Baylor, and just going like, then it's crazy how all these things just lined up in my life. And I'm like, man, I can just pick and choose, from these people. So the real thing was I graduated from Kowloon in '08. And then I was working retail in the area at a store that, I mean, it was a great time. I was right out of college, but I was working at Abercrombie and Fitch. And I was like, I didn't go to school for this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's '08. I'm in SoCal. The market's just completely plummeted. Like, gas was $4. We thought, like, the world's coming to the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're never gonna get out of this. And my parents had moved to Idaho. So I moved to Idaho just to be like, hey, fresh start. I want to be a coach. I want to be a teacher. Like, let's go. And got hired to be the DB's coach at Bonneville High School. And that was like my first experience. I was, yeah, 2 years out of college. So like I'm playing DB, aka I want to still play, right? So like I'm coaching at the ISU summer camp. I'm like teaching these kids, and I'm like, get here, and I'm just like so excited. And it was just like, this is amazing. Like I remember like being on a high of just like, this is the coolest thing, and then seeing a player do what you tell them to do, and you're like, this is awesome. And then from there, I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. So I spent 2 years doing that. I went back and got my teaching degree at ISU, and knew I wanted to come to Boise because I came here to visit with my parents. I said, this city's amazing. And then was like, yeah, let's go, and got hired at Bora High School. And I kind of, the rest is history. I don't know. Like, it's just, it was awesome.
No, that's so cool. It's cool to hear everyone's journey. It's always different, right? It's just different how people do. But what's interesting is I think from the outside looking in, people don't really understand the journey that it took you to become the head coach of Owyhee, where you're at right now, right? Like they don't see that. And even that little intricate detail that you mentioned, going to ISU and getting your teaching degree, that opens the door to being a coach, like a head coach
Yep.
in a program. Like those are like big pieces. When going back to school, you said you wanted to teach. What was it like going back to school to finish your degree a couple years later after having left California? Was that hard to get back into the academic side of things? Because I'll just be honest with you, man. Like I'm very open and honest with every kid I ever coach, every kid I'm around. I hate school. Got my degree, hate it, never going back, never doing it again. I got my bachelor's, never getting a master's, hate it. I'm not a fan of school. I'm a big proponent of getting education other ways, but that's just my own opinion. But I can't imagine going back and finishing school. Like it's hard for me to think that. So how was that for you? Was it just easy for you, or are you really like, because maybe you like education and stuff? So I don't know.
I mean, definitely. I mean, it's like yes and no, right? So here's like the crazy thing, and I don't need to be like get coachy and like, preachy. So like the detail story. So I already have my marketing and business degree from Kowloon, and I was supposed to be a math major, but then I got in an argument my freshman year and was like, I'm gonna prove you I don't want to be a math major. And all this stuff about a grade. And so I'm like, okay, like I need to go back. I go and I teach 1 year, and then there was a program called ABCTE, which means like, if you have a degree, you don't have to go back to school. There's an alternate route, right? So I was doing that, and you could only take this test 3 times. And I failed it all 3 times. And literally the last time I missed it by one question. And like at that time, I'm like, my life, like I just ruined my life. Do you know what I'm saying? Like this is such a negative. I can't believe this. I remember being so mad and just going like, my life's not like over, but just like this is not how it's supposed to go. Like I was very much of like my life. I was very fortunate. Just was very easy. Like I'm not gonna lie, it was very easy. And then but it's like I got to go back to ISU. I meet my wife there, right? Like I if I pass that test, I never meet my wife. I actually learn what it's like to be a teacher. Like I actually know, I'm like, I go like, if I didn't get this degree in education, I'd be so ill prepared. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be like, I'd be the worst teacher, of all time. And I was like, I went back and I said, like, I'm not like, this is college second time. I'm here to get this degree and get out. But then it's like all the things that came out of it were so amazing, right? Like it was truly, amazing. So now I feel like I am prepared to be a teacher. I'm like, okay, I want to be a coach. I want to be a teacher. And everyone's like, you'll get hired because you're bringing, energy, and you're bringing stuff to the school. You want to be there more. And then I get an interview at Bora, and then it goes, oh, I talked to the principal and the math department head. I do a good job. Where they go, hey, let's bring in the AD. Would you want to, be a coach here? I'm like, absolutely. I'm all in, all this stuff. And then the AD is best friends with the guy that I coached with at Bonneville. And we were best friends on the staff. And he's 15, maybe 20 years older than me. He's the head coach right now up at Lewiston, Pancarry. And it's like, it's all these things of like how your journey goes. You think it's a setback, but then I'm like, dude, ISU and all that stuff is a launching point that got me to Bora so I could get myself in the door. And now I have connections. And then it's like, yeah, like work your tail off. Cause that's why I mean, I remember like Darren, I'm always Darren Corpus, right? The old Bora head coach. Like I'm always grateful because he hired me. And I remember the first day I actually like walked in, he said, "What's your ultimate goal?" I go, "I want your job tomorrow." And he said, "Relax, you got a bunch to learn." But you know what I'm saying? It was just like one of those things that it was just like it's the journey, right? You just don't know who's gonna open doors. And I mean, overall, I'd say like education, yes, I'm with you. Like this day and age, like you don't need to go to a school to learn. Now, like if you need a certain degree, absolutely. Like you can watch all the teacher videos in the world on YouTube, but like you still need a certificate. So that's what I always tell kids is like, what do you need to get to the door you want to go to? Right. And sometimes you don't need a certificate, right? Like you can get a degree in graphic design. And if you suck at graphic design, like no one's going to hire you. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? If you're like, and I watched 100 hours on YouTube and look at my design and you're like, yep, that's dope. Like you, oh, I don't have a degree. Yeah. Well, you don't need it in graphic design industry. You don't need it. Right. Unless, I mean, I don't know, maybe there's at Adobe, like you need something, but like, it's like, what do you want to do? And like, what are the steps you need to do to get there? And if you don't have to go to college, like, all right, that's fine. Like, it's YouTube. That's the beauty of 2025. We can do it ourselves.
That's true. There's a lot of resources for education out there, but it is that whole story. I remember you posted something on Instagram a couple months back, maybe, and I do recall little bits and pieces of the story. I think you shared a little bit about the test, the 3 times, and ISU. You kind of shared how that like plays a role in your story. I didn't know the intricate details though, so I appreciate you sharing that because
No.
it's important for everybody in whatever it might be in their life just to look back and have a little perspective and seeing how this led to this, led to this, led to this. We actually had that conversation today at my full-time work, and my digital marketing manager who's on our team, he asked me, he's like, "Hey, so when you were working at this other company, over 12 years ago, what were your goals then and the aspirations in the corporate sector? Were you planning on moving up the ladder?" And then so
Yeah.
we went through these details of like how I got to being where we're at right now in leadership at this job. And it's funny because now here you are sharing that too, because you look back and you're like, holy cow, like everything played a purpose, played a role. Even the bad stuff, the stuff that I
Yes.
thought was so hard, it plays a role. So, Jason, one of the things that you're really well known for from a coaching side. I mean, I talk to a lot of people. I'm pretty involved with just like on the coaching sector, so I get to talk to a lot of athletes around the entire state of Idaho for that matter, but like everywhere. But one of the things you're really well known for is the culture side of things. Like you are able to come into a program and you can get guys to rally behind you, and that is a big piece of coaching. Right. I talk to people about that a lot. Like you can be the X's and O's, like just a genius. But if you don't have a personality that's better than a doorknob, like you're not going to get guys you can know everything you want, but it's hard for guys to play. Like guys got to play. I say guys, I mean guys and girls, but they've got
Yeah.
to be able to play for their coach. Like they've got to love that coach. They've got to feel loved and they want to go to battle for that coach and for each other. So culture is a huge part of coaching. Like, I mean, it's a massive part and you have that down. And I want to ask you, like, part of it's probably God given, as far as like you were born with this, but also it's part of it's not. Like some of that is like you've got to have this intuition, you got to be able to take action, you got to know what to do to rally the troops. And I'm just curious if we could break down the culture side of things, because that is a superpower that I believe that you have from everyone I've talked to and from what I've been able to see. Like you can go into a room and you can command a room and guys will play for you.
Well, yeah, I appreciate those kind words. And I do think like what you said, I think both points are really, really well, right? Like people always say like, how do you have so much energy? And I don't, I just do, right? And I think it is really because when you think about the seventh grade me, like I'm living what I wanted to be, right? So like that's the thing, is like when you are doing something that you love, it's so easy to have energy and do that stuff. And so that's one, right? Like, yes, I just think like I was born to do this. So that's one. And then with that, like it's crazy, like growing up, like all the books I wanted to read, all the stuff I wanted to do was all about leadership. Like, and that's, everything that I've, been a part of just like, I want to consume as much leadership, as I can. Like I watch head coaches press conferences. Like that's not a usually, fun thing, but like I love it and doing all of those things. So I think when it comes to culture, you got to give a path of like, hey, this is where we want to go, right? And I think that as a head coach and just a leader in general is one of those things like you have to live it, right? Like you have to embody it. You have to do all those things. So it's like, hey, we all know what we're working for, and then creating standards. And I'll admit, like this has been a journey like anything is, right? Like when I look back, when I first started coaching, or, my first couple years at Bora, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was so bad, because like it was just early. Like you didn't know what you didn't know, or you didn't, experience it. And it's like, hey, like, what are the things that, you have to, bring? And I think the biggest thing, like I always like say this, and it's more evident than ever in 2025, is you have to show people that you care, right? Like I think that is like the big thing, is like you have to show them that you care and it's authentic. Like that's the thing. Like and that's the hardest thing as a coach, is we have to make decisions that affect all of our players. And I want every player to play because I'm a fan of them. Like I see them working hard. I want them to do that. But then it's like, but my job is also to put the 11 best players on the field to represent this school to be successful. Like that's what sports is. And so I think it really comes down to, being part of, some places. And because I mean, there's a lot of places I've been to that was not good, right? Like I remember going like, I will never do this. Oh, I will, never do that, where it's just like, hey, like, this is what we need to work for. These are the things that we need to do. And this is the standard, right? And I think like, well, you're always trying to work. Like I told the guys this morning at 6 a.m., we're in there with, Coach Wyatt from off the field. And he said, hey, guys aren't doing this technique exactly. I said, guys, culture, like, yes, culture is having a vision, right? And everyone feeling good and everyone feeling part of a team. Like, that is one part of the culture. But the other part of the culture is players holding each other to the standard. Like, if it's just coaches holding, like, we're just setting rules and expectations, right? And, like, and that's the big thing that, like, I really am excited about. Like, when you talk about culture, is like, can we create a team where everyone holds each other to the standard? And it's like, hey, here's the standard. There's you aren't doing the standard, and I think, those are, the big things that people know, that they, love each other and be part of a team. I think that's really, really important. And I think it's not only on a team, it's on a coaching staff, it's in a building, it's in your family, it's everything, right? Like we just want to feel like we're part of the team and someone cares about you and has your back. And that's what I try to do. Like I love being the ultimate hype man. Like that, that's my like deal. Like if you have a passion for it, I get hyped for you, and I want you to know, like, hey, I believe in you, and if you think you can do it, I want to be there to back you.
That's so dope, dude. I love that. Why do you think it is, Jason, being around the kids that you're around, you want to build a culture? You want to build a culture where kids hold each other accountable, right? The athletes themselves are holding each other accountable to the standard, like you just mentioned. I do notice as a coach myself, though, like there's times where kids just like they don't speak up a lot, and maybe it's because we need to develop that culture overall from a coaching perspective too. But I think some of the kids these days are just scared to do that. And I look back at my own time as a player in high school, and I was a couple years behind you. I was 2006 is when I graduated, but back then, I mean, we had a very talented basketball team. Our football team won the state championship. It was like, but even then, like on basketball, dude, we weren't really like, and I don't know, maybe I look at myself, I'm like, well, maybe I didn't think I was good enough to hold other people to a standard because I wasn't the best player on the team. I was a sixth man, right?
Yeah.
So I came off the bench. So I don't know, but what do you think? Like, I try to think about this. Like, why are some kids like, why do we have that problem so much where kids are scared to hold each other accountable?
Without a doubt. And I mean, being, like thinking I'm the culture guy. Like I look back at high school and I said, man, I was a horrible leader, right? Like because I didn't want to have that conversation, right? Because I was very much of like I'm gonna work my butt off, and I see what you're doing, and like I don't like I'll just ignore you. You know what I'm saying? Like like that. That is the thing of like just not. I'll just lead by example, and I think and I think we do have to do a better job, right? Of having kids be leaders. And I think the biggest thing is like teaching them what that is, right? We always hear that word. And I always tell kids of like, so, okay, like I need this model for me and like, give me the tools. And like, again, I love all my coaches and everything, but it's like, okay, what does it look like to be a leader? And many kids think, and then there's nothing wrong with it, but let me yell. Hey, that's not leadership. Just because you yell and you say pick it up or what are you doing and cursing, like that's not leadership. That's just you being a jerk. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all it is. So it's like like what does an actual leader look like? And I think like more than ever, I think it's we have to teach athletes this is what this looks like, right? And I'm not going to stand here and be like, oh yeah, like we do this and we're perfect, and because we're not, and we're developing it. I mean, literally, me and my staff we're developing an 8-week program that teaches leadership. Like, what does this look like? Because I think the big thing is like, right? You think is leader based on skill, right? And because that's another thing. Oh, you're the best player, so you should be the leader. Well, I've been around programs where our best player is not the best leader, and they
Sure.
don't want to be, and that's fine. Like, and because that's the other thing. It's like I do feel like you gotta kind of own that, right? So it's like, hey, I'm just really good, and I just want to be good. I don't want to be in charge of everyone else. Like, I just want to do, my thing. So it's like, how can you lead based on your role, right? And I think that's what the standard is that we talk about. If someone calls you out for you're not holding the standard, and you think you're above them, even though we don't want to say that, but like we all do it. Like we all have ranking order, like in our head, that's just a human thing. But it's like if someone's calling you out to the standard and you're not holding the standard and you don't listen to them, that means you have an ego. So now you're saying you're
Yep.
above the standard. So I think it's really, really important for coaches and everyone is just to create that standard. This is what it is to be on the team. This is what we do. And anyone can call you out for it. And I think when you have that, I think that's when you see teams just like elevate so much. And then like on the second part of that is teaching them what does leadership look like, right? Like, are you the vocal leader? Now, it's like the vocal leader to be kind of a guy that's or female, right? That's like you're really good, right? Like that you don't have to be the star, but like you're in it. So it's like vocal leader, what does that look like? When do you say it? And then also like leading by example. And I feel like you got to lead by example first to be able to talk, right? For it to really like hold the team, because yeah, you can say the right things, but people are like, you don't even do that. Like, why am I going to listen to you? So I think it's one of those things of like, hey, this is what it looks like. And having kids and then like telling them, I mean, literally, like we tell them, guys aren't showing up to morning workouts. This is how you say this. How can I support you to get here? Do you need me to call you? Do you need me to come pick you up? What can I do to help you? Like that's a leader, right? Like that is a leader saying, hey, I see that you're kind of struggling with this. How can I be there for you? Not show up. You're not doing this. You don't want this. You don't know what their issue is. Like you don't. So like how can I help you be better? Like that's what a leader is.
I like that. I hope everybody who's listening to this rewinds that and kind of like takes note of all those pieces right there. Cause I think you're spot on with that. I think you're spot on. And I mean, if I look back as I've gotten older and I've had leaders around me, I see the ones that have been really, really good at what they did that I've tried to take pieces from are a lot of those things you just mentioned. They do a lot of those things, even in the workforce, man, like not just even on the sports field or the court or whatever. It's in the workforce that they're the ones. How can I help you do this? How can I help you reach your goals here? Da, da, da. Like there's people that, yeah, everything you just said there, there's little bits and pieces of that I've noticed myself. I would encourage those again, who are listening, rewind that and take some notes on that. If you look back so far at your coaching experience here in Idaho, when you moved up here, came from California, been coaching, as a head coach specifically for two programs, but you've been coaching in, three essentially,
Yeah.
right? Like, so what is one of your favorite memories, Jason, as a coach at any capacity, whether it be head coach or an assistant in some capacity? What was your favorite memory that you can pull out right now? So far, it's only 2025. There's
Yeah.
many more to come, but what's your favorite memory so far?
I mean, there is a lot, and I know like it's one of those things I always go like, do you say the names? Because there's so many, right? I mean,
Sure.
I've been so fortunate to be, around so many great athletes and just people. I think the ones that like when you like say that, the ones that like really like stood out. I always like get emotional like when we have like senior nights or whatever and like kids thank me, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, like I think like thank you. Like I don't know like why you're thanking me, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm just like,
Sure.
dude, like I love this. But like I'll talk about like two specific things in like in general. So I'll start general first. Biggest thing is when I see ex players, like I think Steve Spurrier say this one time, like when ex players come back, right? Like that just makes me feel so good. And seeing guys, in public and and seeing them like taking a photo and picture and just catching up with them. Like, and for me, it's like when I see the excitement on their face of like, coach, what's up? You're like, oh, that's cool. Like I
Yeah.
never, take that for granted. And then especially like when they share like kind words, like, dude, you mean so much to me. I'm like, okay, like, are you trying to make me cry right now? Like, really get emotional. But the three that really stand out, and it's funny because it's not a win, right? You think like, oh, it's a big win, and those are great, but it's not. Talking about leadership, this was my first year as a head football coach, right? So like living the dream. I'm the one that's always giving the speeches and all that stuff. And we're talking about leadership, and we're in a 7-on-7 tournament, and this corner completely messed up. Came up, bit on a hitch. They throw a corner right behind them. As time is expiring, the team catches the ball. They charge. We lose. And this is a JV. This is our JV team. This is not even varsity. And I was trying to tell them like, what is leadership? And one of the best kids, which I will shout out because he's a local legend, Jacob Badabinga, who played at C of I, outside linebacker, and he literally goes up and grabs his kid around the arm or around the neck and goes, dude, it's all good. He goes, you tried your best. He goes, I ain't mad at you. We need you to play better in the next game. He goes, shake it off. We all love you. And I'm like literally just saying like those are the exact words. Like you're like for the first time, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is leadership. Like I am teaching, in this, and we're like, doing that. So I think that's number one. Number two is Wood River, because that's like a crazy, like, I went there to support my wife and I love it, but like that's like me, like emotionally, I was just like all over the place, like mental health and a takeover a track program that was kind of non-existent. And first year, just trying to like instill like, hey, this is what you do, like this is what we do in Boise. You like get, and then like the second year to see the growth of the athletes. And I remember being at districts and we went back to back in a relay, and it was like all those kids running and like me running, and it was just like they were all just like, thank you for believing in us. And I was like, yeah, like that's the point of like being a coach, like you're just like, man, that's like really really cool. And the same thing at Owyhee, like it's always like, man, like, you walk in and you're like, hey, is this like, I want to be here, and I think we can, like be like really, really good. And players that like didn't I didn't coach under, right? Like, it's hard, being a senior. Like I had to deal with it when I was in college. Like you have a new head coach your senior year, and you're like, yeah, cool, dude, but like you're not my coach, like in real, like you haven't been here the last 2 years that we've been grinding, and doing that. And like players coming up like in immediately and just being like, we believe in you, thank you. And like leaders of the team where you're just like, hey man, like are we good? Like are we good on this? Like are you drinking the Kool-Aid? Like are you like picking it up, and having that, so like immediately going like, okay, I think I got the leaders. Like, let's go. Like, we're gonna build this. Like, we're gonna be successful. And having them, I had a player recently send me a clip of Dan Campbell and his players talking about him, like he is the culture, and like guys like saying like, this is you, like this is how I feel about you, and you're just like, wow, like it's like those moments that are like really cool and honestly makes you emotional because you're just like, man, like that's what I'm hoping, right? We just want to give you the tools to be successful, and you can like see it, and then you're just like, man, this is why sports is awesome. This is why coaching is awesome, because you believe in people and you can see them benefiting and see them being successful. And that's what you want.
Dude, I freaking love it, man. So cool to hear that. Ah, that's so cool. As we transition over to the next piece of that, and as I'm like still sitting and thinking as a coach, like all the memories that I've had, like that you're bringing up, and like the
Yeah.
cool stuff like that, it does make you emotional. It's kind of cool. It makes you feel good because you're doing the right thing. But it's also cool to see the good in other people, especially younger kids they get it, and they're helping you just as much as you are helping them. It's pretty awesome. So as we look at this one, like one of the things I've noticed about you, Jason, the last 2 years specifically, is you've brought up this I don't know if it's a nonprofit, but the whatever it is, it's called
Oh yeah.
Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression. And you
Yep.
brought it up a couple times. I get to watch you go on your runs, and then you'll come back and you'll shout it out. And I followed just hearing about it, and I want to know more about it. So
Yeah.
somebody myself who's battled with mental health my entire life, specifically with anxiety. Anxiety has always just been something that I've had to struggle with. It's just something that the Lord gave me that I had to battle through, and that's been my entire life. But what I found interesting about that, and what caught my attention, is like I meet a lot. That's where I can really try to like relate to athletes that struggle with it, because Jason, it was sports anxiety that actually started, and then it kind of stemmed into other aspects of my life throughout my life, but it was sports anxiety. It's a real thing. And so athletes, they deal with it. And so when I heard the name and stuff, it was just very catchy because it's like, I want to know about this.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you to kind of break this down and let me know what this is all about, so that we can learn about Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression. What's the mission? What's the goal? And what are we trying to drive awareness for?
Yeah, it's my cousin, Ryan McCarney, also known as China McCarney, what goes by. Who this was my cousin when I talk about like going to UCLA games, right? Like this is, we went to UCLA games. We were doing all the sports. Like literally, he's 1 year younger than me, and we grew up with each other. He was a great athlete, especially at high school where he went to high school. I mean, was like on all American list, all Southern California list, big time. And had his journey, right? And just kind of how we all navigate, through life. Everyone's, journey is different. And he wanted to start it because he saw it, in athletics and getting out of it, and all those things. So it is pretty much, it's his foundation, that he brings awareness, and he tells his story, which I think is super powerful. And I think like for my involvement, one is my cousin, right? So I love him, and I want to help him in any way that I can. But like I truly believe, like you said, like the cause, right? Like I remember in high school, like you get this pressure because it's like, I want to go play college, I want to go play, you right, like I want to be good, like I don't want to let my team down. And this is something like I struggled with. Like, I mean, my parents, like before even like counseling, was mainstream, it was definitely, it's like, do you need to go see a sports counselor? And it was one of those things, like, I mean, I never did, but it literally, like in sports, and especially I think baseball, because it's so like one-on-one, right? Like you're up to bat, and a ball comes to you. It's just you, like, you know what I'm saying? But even football, because I cared about it so much and playing the quarterback position, like I almost had to say, like, I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. Like that was my switch. Like that's how I went into games. I don't care. Let's go. Let's just play a game. And like some people are like, oh, you're just cocky and egotist. And I'm like, no, I literally have to tell myself I don't care. Right? Like, because I need to perform the next play. Right. But because if I get so much, in my head. So like I remember like all those things. And then, you go to college, and the same thing, it doesn't leave you, right? Like you get that. So I think it's really, really important. I think mental health is really, really important because we all go through it. And the cool thing is, and the bummer thing is, right, we all have our own way. none of our mental health is the same, right? So it's like, cool, like I can share my story and this is how I go through it, which I might not deal with so much anxiety or so much depression as someone else, but I want to admit, like, hey, I know, like, I'm in charge of young people. Like, I want to say, like, it is okay. Like, we all go through it. Like, I know we want to put this, hey, we're confident, but, is really, sharing, the story of that. And just, again, I think we all just want to know that, like, oh, if someone else went through it, I can go through it, right? And be like, hey, there are gonna be, valleys and hills that you have to climb, and knowing that, and now being the age, like, 40 this year coming up, and
Hey.
and yeah, and having a little bit of experience, but it is one of those things, because I think I've shared, and I like, it was one that, like, I loved Wood River, like, I did, and I made the most of it, but, like, mentally, like, I was struggling, but I think a lot of, you had athletes and probably people that would say, like, hey, like, he came in, he was high energy, like, he was so good for this school and he did so many things, and but, like, behind the scenes, I'm struggling, like, I am going, like, what am I doing? Like, am I supposed to be here? Should I be here? Like, literally turning to, you know, God and being like, I know I'm here for a reason. I want to know why. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know why in the moment, And
Sure.
now looking back, like, you talk about the videos, like, a lot of the things that I went through, the struggle, it's like, well, that fell on the other side. I might have been struggling, I might have been pulling back, but it was to shoot me forward to get where I wanted, to be. And we do talk about it, and again, I think we can always do more for it. I'm like, man, we need to do more for the athletes, but it's like, hey, like, we're here for you. Like, there's a lot of things going on in a high schooler. I mean, that's the thing, like, I couldn't imagine having this. I mean, we'd had a phone, but we didn't have social media as a
Right.
high schooler. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I remember, like, texting and phone calling and just, like, the stress of that, like, and so I think it's an awesome cause. I mean, especially, targeted to athletes. So obviously, I'm an athlete, you're an athlete. You never stop being an athlete, right? We tell ourselves we're still athletes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see you putting shots up. You're still, you're still doing it. Like, we're still an athlete. So I think it is really important that, knowing that the resources are there, knowing that people have gone through the same thing, and just being like, hey, like, there's people that can help you and you don't have to go through it alone, right? And I think that's, it's really, really important that, I think, especially athletes, we are so confident, majority of, with, like, yeah, we're confident, we're working out, we're, doing stuff, we're on a team, but it's like, man, like, you can still struggle and be a really good athlete, or, anything. Like, you don't have to, like, make this like, oh, life's perfect. Like, let's talk about it. Yeah. Let's cry about it, because that's important. Like, that is something that you need to work through, because mental health is huge. How you talk to yourself determines everything.
Oh, 100%. My best friend that runs Helix Mental Performance Camp. We ran a camp together this summer. That's a big thing. Like, he's a counselor, and a sports psychologist, essentially, and he works on the mental side of the game, but specifically with mental health. It's not just mental performance; it's mental health
Yep.
as well. And so it's so wild. You say, like, without the phones and stuff, right? Like, I would just listen to a LeBron James podcast interview that he did. It just surfaced this morning on my feed. And he's talking about how he never had to deal with social media like some of these athletes are doing now. And that's actually a blessing for him, because in high school, he was a big time
Yeah.
player and had national media, but he didn't have to deal with social media back then. And I think about it a lot too, Jason. I don't know if I could have done it. I don't know if I could have handled it. Coaching club basketball, for example, and I coach typically, 17U, so juniors going into senior year, or
Yeah.
unsigned seniors. These guys, a lot of them put on a face, but when you get to talk to them, they're battling with some demons inside, man. Like, and then a lot of it has to do with this freaking thing, and,
Yeah.
like, they're Snapchatting and they're talking, and they feel like they got to keep up with the Joneses, and they have to put up an image and a wall, and then you get to know them, and they're battling, man. And so that's why I think it's awesome what you guys are doing there. I love that there's some awareness there, and I think it's okay to talk about it, dude. Like, I tell people all the time, man, like, yeah, dude, I battle with anxiety, but I'll still knock your teeth in, dude. I'm tough as nails. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you're weak. I
Right.
promise you, I am not scared of you, but like it's like you battle with it still sometimes, and it's okay to be. It's okay to be that way. It's okay to be to deal with those things, and it's okay to bring that stuff up. You can still be a tough guy,
Yeah.
still be cool, and still deal with that stuff. So I think that's awesome that you guys are bringing awareness to it. Where can we follow it? I know there's a social media channel. I can post that here in the description. Is that where
Yeah.
it's at, just to find more about athletes with
Yeah.
anxiety and
And
depression?
there is, I want to say there is, I'll look this up right now. I want to say there is a website. I would be shocked if there wasn't. So yeah, so again, anxiety depression, perfect. Yep. So just the, AAADfoundation.org. He has a lot of good stuff where, you can get free therapy. You can reach out. He loves stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like just, reach out. He does, he's also still involved in the sports world. He is involved with Jaeger Sports, the armbands for mostly baseball. I mean, literally, you look at any college, any professional team. I mean, you go to Dick's and buy them, and he's actually on the cover, like he's the model that does it. So he is involved, in sports, and he's there with Alan Jaeger, who's the owner of it, who played in the major leagues, and deals with. So it is very so much part of their makeup. But yeah, please go follow it. Please reach out. He shares a lot of his personal journey, which is awesome. He also has connections, especially in the major leagues, because he's been baseball his whole entire life. So you hear, he showcases athletes like that, which is important, because like again, like we all, like, yeah, I want to be a professional athlete. I bet you did too, and part of me still does. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, so we like put these athletes on a pedestal because like, you have it all, but it's like, dude, they have to go through it too. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah,
there's always levels to this. And it's like, so we all are doing it, right? And it's like, what does it look like in your own way? And I think that's the big thing. I think like, hey, we all deal with anxiety, but you might look at it different and like that. So it's like there's no judgment. And it's like, hey, if you deal with it, like let's talk about it and know that you are going to, because it never goes away. I would love to say that, like, oh yeah, anxiety, which boom, it just goes away. Nope, it doesn't. Like there's moments that will get everyone like, I mean, that, and again, that's what I have for me, right? There's moments I get into and I'm like, okay, just you're fine. You're fine, but you
yeah,
are nervous. You are like, oh my goodness, am I going to be okay? Can I perform? Is someone going to look at me and I can't live up to their expectation? Like that's for me, that's my anxiety. Like, can I be the person you want me to be? Like, did I do everything right? Like that's what I have of going like, oh, did I let someone down? Oh no, I'm sorry. Like that's for
sure.
me, that's my anxiety, where it's like, I'm sorry I couldn't be the person that you needed in that moment. I'm so sorry. So
Oh man, I totally feel what you're saying right there, man. What I'm going to do, I want everybody's listening, if you haven't already, check the description of the podcast, aaadfoundation.org. The website's there. If you go to the Instagram page, there's a link tree as well. And on that link tree, there's quite a few resources, a lot of cool things. Like there's a 100 miles in November fundraising page. I think that's what you've done, right, Jason? Like I've
yeah,
seen you, that's where I think I caught it the first time when last year was you were running, doing the 100 miles in November. But
yeah,
there's like I think I saw on there a companion journal of sorts. There's like downloadable resources on the link tree.
yeah.
So I would highly encourage you guys to check it out. So I'll link the Instagram page as well as the website, but on that Instagram page is where I saw the link tree with the resources. So check that out. And then, Jason, as we're wrapping up towards the end of this interview, I just want to ask you, what's the biggest life lesson football has taught you? The biggest life lesson.
Wow. Wow. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say two things. Sorry, I got split up in two. One, and I know like I love this sport, so people can argue with me from other sports, but I truly believe it's the ultimate team game. Like I really do. Like you can have a really good player, but they can't just go and dominate, right? Like they can't. Like it's not just, hey, watch me take over. Now, can they put you in really good spots? Yes, but it's like you truly need 11 people on the field doing their job. Like
Sure.
they have to, and it's crazy. Usually when it breaks down, and you don't do your job, the ball's usually there and everyone can see it, right? So I think it's the ultimate, like, I can't go do this on my own. I can't go and do that. I need to depend on my teammates. So I think that's like fantastic. And just going everything with teammates, right? All the teammates you love, all the teammates I love, just that I trust you and just that bond it creates because I trust you to be my teammate. I need you to be there because I can't do everything. So I think that just shows you so much in life, right? That you can't do it all. You always need a great team. I know a lot of athletes watch this and a lot of young people, and that, transfers to, who you want to marry. Like, that's a team, right? Like, who do you want to be a teammate with? Like, what does that look like? Like that, there is so many more things than I think, the society, what it dubs of like, oh, this is what you need your, partner to be. No, like what's important to you, and they can fulfill that. You can be that to them and they can be that to you. So I think, being that, the other thing, there's always someone bigger, badder, stronger, and you're gonna get your butt kicked. You might kick some butt, but at the end of the day, like it's just you got to go to the next play, and I think that's really really important. Football's such a physical sport, so there's been so many times I have been lit up, like literally just like looking at this guy going, "What just happened?" You know what I'm saying? Or getting hit, and you're just like, I just want to lay down. Like I don't want to get back up. Get the trainer out here. But you get back up and you learn a lot about yourself, and that translates. And this is what we tell our players, and this is why I'm so biased towards football, because there are so many days you don't want to get up. You don't. You don't, and you just like, and you didn't think it was important in high school and college, and these coaches are just talking, and then now, as a 40-year-old man, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of mornings I don't want to get up, but I do, because I know that's what I need to do the next play, and I think that's what football is amazing at, but in general, that's what sports is about, right? Like that's why they're so special, because they teach us so many life lessons and they bring people together. And you get some amazing friends, you get some amazing experiences, and it does help you for the rest of your life. You look back, and I think about that, running that sprint in high school in my town when it was 120 degrees. I didn't want to do it, but I did it. And I got a little bit more confident because of that, because I did it, because I finished it. I didn't die. You know what I'm saying? I didn't tap out when other people did. Like, heck yeah, I did it. That was me. Good job, Jason. Let's go attack the next thing.
Freaking love that, dude. It's so good. What an awesome conversation, man. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being willing to join the show and share your story and share your wisdom. It's so insightful. That's why I love learning from leaders like yourself. I mean, you talked about reading books when you were younger and learning about leadership and so forth. And I'm a big proponent of that as well. Read, learn, but you can also learn from listening to people like yourself. And so I appreciate you being willing to be one of those resources for others who are aspiring as well to be leaders. I think it's awesome. So once again, Jason, thank you. Thank you for joining the show, man.
Absolutely. I cannot end. I have to say one thing,
Sure.
is like, I just like want to give you like your flowers, and I can't thank you enough for having me on, but like, just so you know, like, you literally like influenced me as well. When I see like you started this, I mean, what you said, 2017, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I bet there was probably so many people that said, "What are you're doing a podcast?"
All the
You know what I'm
time.
saying? Like, who are you, Shane? Like,
Yeah.
who's gonna be on your podcast, right? Like, literally, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have that, but then like to see you just like keep on going, and like when you say all 50 states, I'm messing up the stats, but you said what, 180 countries? I don't
Yeah.
know.
182 countries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no big deal. No, but like that's kind of good. That's kind of good. You know what I'm saying? And like, and seeing like the guests like that you've had on, and like again, like just like those unreal moments where like I'm looking at you going, I'm so jacked for you. And I'm like, I couldn't even imagine what you're doing, going like, I have this guest on. You know what I'm saying? Like childhood hero, like boom, like we're talking. And it's just like, it's one of those things where like, man, I really appreciate what you do. I really appreciate what you do for club basketball. Obviously, we have common friends like Colin and Idaho Premier. You know, you're such a great dude, but just the Valley, man, like you're here having great conversations with athletes, with players. You're putting it out there. And again, this isn't just because you had me on. Like I really do appreciate you, and you give me energy, because it's just like, hey man, if you just keep on working your butt off, like it's gonna come, and then you just go, oh man, I think I can get to this level. Oh, I can get to this level. So I really do appreciate you, man. And if you're listening to this, go follow him on video. Let's go. Let's get the video up. YouTube subscribers, let's go.
Dude, I love that. I appreciate that, man. Such kind words. There's my knuckles to you, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely,
you.
man. Yes.
And we'll see you soon. And for all those who are
Yes.
listening, yeah, please hit the subscribe button, because we'll be coming to you next week with another interview. You guys take care. Jason, thanks so much. We'll chat soon, brother.
Absolutely. Later, Shane.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.